Okay, I actually realized I forgot a book. Forgot to do one out of the Lost Ways. I'm tired. Sorry, guys. Alright. The survival food of the U.S. Civil War. How to make hardtack biscuits. Oh, gosh. Really? Um... This is actually a little different. Okay. Alright. By James Bolton. An army marches on its stomach. Napoleon Bonaparte. Though it may have been fire that brought humans out of the darkness and into the light, just as powerful was the advent of agriculture that allowed us to build communities and stop running and gunning for survival. Buried in the heap of incredible technologies that catapulted our race to the very moon itself lies an often neglected staple. It was an invention that would have made sea exploration nearly impossible. It was the food that fed soldiers at war for thousands of years, and I'm talking about hardtacks. Not familiar with the name? Well, it goes by many others as well. The fact of the matter is, the staple of the seafaring peoples of old and pioneers alike has been called cabin bread, pilot bread, sea biscuit, sea bread, ship's biscuit, and as we will discuss now, hardtack. The journey across the Atlantic was a harsh one that required a food source that could last the long journey. Hardtack offered a carbohydrate energy source that was simply void of moisture. This dried mixture of flour and water was often baked as many as 4 times to ensure it could be stored for years if needed without spoiling. That said, the hardtacks were not bulletproof. There are stories of sailors opening barrels of hardtack only to find armies of beetles waiting inside and their food storage for the voyage squandered. But these stories are very uncommon. At Wentworth Museum in Pensacola, Florida, you can find a still edible hardtack from the U.S. Civil War labeled 1862, which is actually incredible and awesome. In Alaska, people still eat hardtacks and actually enjoy them. Though the hardtack eaten in Alaska today does not come from the recipe we will discuss here, it's still a very simple leavened version with the addition of some fat as well. Survival kits are required cargo on flights by light aircraft in Alaska, and it seems these hardtacks are often a favorite addition to these kits. So much so that they are available everywhere these flights land or take off. During the Civil War, the South was strangled by a naval blockade that kept fresh wheat out of the hands of the Confederacy. In fact, in the early days of the war, the Army was eating hardtacks from the Mexican-American War, which had ended in 1848. This astounding fact should drive home the effectiveness of this food. It was not common for a soldier's full meal to consist of 1 hardtack for breakfast, 1 hardtack for lunch, and 1 for dinner. Now considering the grueling hikes and hand-to-hand combat that ensued, these warriors of our past fought it out with little more than coffee and flour in their stomachs. Though the Union Army had more resources, their soldiers, too, had to depend on hardtacks. Of course, they were not eating biscuits from previous wars, yet these were still rock hard. To temper its hard nature, they would often dip it into coffee, whiskey, or tea. This acted as a softener. Some of the men would smash them with rifle butts and mix in river water to make a mush. If a frying pan was available, the mush could be cooked into a lumpy pancake. If not, it was dropped directly on campfire coals. For dessert, hardtack was sometimes crumbled with brown sugar and hot water. If whiskey was available, that was added. The resulting dish was called a pudding. The best place to find real honest hardtacks being made is at the popular Civil War reenactments. The men and women who participate in the historic battles often enjoy producing some of the foods of that time. These hardtacks produced by the enactors will be the most authentic you can find outside of making them in your own kitchen. Hardtacks are also gaining popularity among preppers and survivalists. The tough biscuit is prized for exactly the same reasons it was in the past. There is an understanding that if it all goes bad, these things will be around. Though they may not be the most delicious option, they could feed you and your family in a bad situation. Thus, hardtacks are becoming part of an expensive inventory of an extensive inventory of long-term food storage. The brilliant thing about hardtacks is that they are little more than water, flour, and salt. This is why they last an eternity. The desire to add things for flavor and texture is alluring, but remember, the true purpose of this food is to last forever. The addition of things like fats, which can go rancid, will shorten the lifespan of this food. I will provide you with a basic recipe for creating these biscuits. What's more important, however, is that you understand the basic ratio. Many people think cooking is about recipes, but really, knowing a ratio is much more powerful than a recipe because it can be manipulated easily. The ratio for hardtacks is 3-to-1 flour to water. This can be 3 cups of flour to 1 cup of water, or 3 pounds to 1 pound, or 3 tons to 1 ton. Take this ratio and apply it to any way you see fit. Ingredients: 3 cups of flour to 1 cup of water, 2 teaspoons of salt. Hardware: cookie sheet or pizza stone, $9 ceramic planter bottom at the local home and garden store. Local mixing bowl, rolling pin, pizza cutter, not necessary, fork, and a big clean nail. Preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Add your flour to the large mixing bowl and stir it around a bit with your fork. Add the salt to your bowl next and make sure that it gets well integrated into the mix. One of the best pieces of advice I can give you when making dough by hand, and if you're making hardtacks, leave the food processor in the cupboard, is to make a well. Once all of your dry ingredients are incorporated, create a hole in the center of the flour. Use your fork to push the flour up and around the edges of the bowl. Pour your water into the well and slowly begin to incorporate the flour into the water. With your fork, slowly knock the sides into the well, allowing the water to begin to thicken. This technique with the well allows you to control how much flour you added to your mixture. Once the mix gets stodgy and doughy, you can turn it out onto a floured table. This mass will still be pretty sticky, and it will take some additional flour and elbow grease to make it smooth. Begin to work the dough by poking at it with your fingertips and folding it over itself. Add flour until it stops sticking to the table in your hands. The dough will get smooth and soft after just a couple minutes. Once your dough has come together, you can begin to round it out. You want smooth dough that won't stick to your rolling pin or whatever else you use to shape your hardtack. This picture below shows our dough ready for the next steps. There are several ways you can manipulate your hardtacks into various shapes. I utilize the rolling pin and the pizza cutter. You could go as crazy as to use a cookie cutter. Just know that although they may be shaped like dinosaurs, these tough biscuits will not soon become a favorite around the house. One method for forming hardtacks is to use the rolling pin to form a large square. If you have trouble forming this square from your round ball of dough, simply use the pizza cutter to trim the edges. Ensure your hardtacks are at least a half-inch thick. Remember, these things were actually dinner for the soldiers of the Revolution, Civil War, and maybe even the Roman legions. Utilize a common household nail to poke holes in the hardtack. Make sure the nail is clean. This allows the center of your biscuit to dry out quicker and more thoroughly in the oven. For a nice sized square hardtack, poke 16 holes straight through the dough. Another method for shaping your hardtack is to break your dough down into smaller portions. These portions will cook quicker. Sorry, guys. And be more easily divided among others should the need arise. From here, shape the portions into smaller circles. This will become your individual portions. Though smaller than the large square method featured above, these will also need holes punched in them using the nail. When you think about this ancient recipe and how it must have been prepared all those years ago, it's really hard to throw these things on a Teflon-coated cookie sheet and bake them like chocolate chip cookies. Invest in a clay planter bottom at your local home and garden store. These are an incredible tool for baking breads or making stellar pizza out of a home oven. They cost about $9 and last a long time. The clay is highly effective because it holds heat so well. Lay your hardtacks out and give them enough space to bake evenly. Place them in the oven for 30 minutes. This 30-minute cook time is merely the first of at least 2 bakes these hard biscuits will go through. This process, although time-consuming, will ensure there is no remaining moisture in your hardtacks. Any moisture becomes the complete enemy of the process of the shelf stability. Some old recipes call for 3 and even 4 times in the oven. These biscuits must have been closer kin to bricks than food. Once your first 30 minutes is over, pull out the hardtacks and allow them to cool. The steam will come out of them and they will get pretty hard, although they will not be hard or dry enough to store at this point. After having cooled them for about 20 minutes, place them back in the oven. This time set your timer for 1 hour. It will be this bake that thoroughly dries your biscuits and also begins to give them a pleasing bit of color. Following the last hour of baking, turn your oven off. Do not remove the hardtacks. Instead, leave your pilot's biscuits in the turned-off oven. Let the heat slowly drop in the oven while your biscuits slowly dry even further. This is a great practice for really zapping any remaining moisture left inside. At this point, you have created some decent shelf-stable hardtacks. Now, unlike most foods you spend time making from scratch, I can't say you will be delighted to try them. They are dry and hard. Those are basically the 2 features for your palate when it comes to hardtacks. It won't get much better than that, and really it shouldn't. Remember, if you decide to flavor them up with butter or herbs, this will simply add ingredients that will drastically shorten the shelf life of your hardtacks. Keep it simple, and they will last forever. Also, when you read about just how hard these hardtacks are, you must understand that these aren't words that do them justice. If you decide to taste the fruits of your labor, I advise you to take some precautions. Make sure you are chewing with the best teeth you have. If there's anything loose or filled in there, it may very well come out or even shatter.
Wow.
All jesting aside, this is an ancient food that has carried entire nations through tough times. If you follow the recipe listed and store your hardtacks properly, there's no doubt these biscuits will do the same for you and your family if that day ever comes. Sorry, I'm tired. Alright, so that was another rendition of the Hardtack Biscuits, the survival food of the U.S. Civil War. And I will go ahead and get off from here. And now I'm done with the videos for the night. I just have to start uploading them. So that's going to take a while. And definitely will not get more than 1 uploaded tonight. So I'll work on these tomorrow as well and get them uploaded. And hopefully I'll be able to do some more tomorrow night. And I will see you guys in the next video. And remember to do your research, guys, because it's very important. Very, very, very important that you have this information. See you guys tomorrow. Get a good night's sleep, you guys. Remember to leave comments. I want to start getting in contact with all you guys because I want all you guys to get a new subscriber package. A t-shirt and a mug with Faith First Farm and Homestead logo on it. And it's going to be hand-painted by me. So I will see you guys in the next video. Leave comments, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.